Well, my name is Steve Jordan, and welcome to the service operations that advance your consumers and protect your portfolio. When we created this session, we really wanted to delineate the difference between service operations for buy here, pay here dealers and traditional retail dealers. Because as you all know, in the buy here, pay here industry, you're not making money in your service department. So what we thought we would do is bring some of the best and brightest minds together related to parts, service, buy here, pay here, and get some pretty good insight from people who do this stuff day in and day out. So the idea is to get a couple of nuggets today about how to better run your service operations in your buy here, pay here dealership so that you can, in fact, keep your customers on the road and by extension, keep them paying. Because we all know if the car isn't running, they're not paying. So as it relates to your service operations, there's a lot of questions that you have to answer to make sure that you're not spending more than you need to spend, maybe how you're paying your technicians. Are you doing a flat rate? Are you doing book rate? How much are you putting in reconditioning? Are you doing a warranty? Is there, are you doing goodwill service and not also getting a goodwill service repair form signed? There's a lot of things at play related to the effective operations of your buy here, pay here service department. So we've got a star-studded panel up here that's going to be led in part by Cris Hollingsworth with AutoZone. And Cris is the Director of Business Development, Sales, and Strategy for AutoZone. And he oversees all of the national accounts, the public sector, and e-commerce sales teams, and is essentially responsible for more than $850 million a year in parts sales. So I'm sure there's a lot there's not a lot about the parts delivery system that he doesn't know about. But at this time, I'd like to go ahead and pass it over to Cris and do the introductions with the panelists. But this is really kind of an open forum. We want a lot of your feedback, but I think the horsepower that we have up here on this panel is going to be able to give you a lot of good insight as to maybe some of the things that you can do better in your own service department. Cris?
Thank you. Can everyone hear me just fine? Good. Okay, we're going to do this as an interactive session, so do understand that we want to solicit questions from the audience. We do have questions also that we did some intensive polling. We sent an email to like 6 people. And so we have some questions here that we can use to fall back on when you're not, we don't have questions readily available, but do understand I'm in the audience, I will find you. We're expecting a question from every single row. For those of you who are sitting in a row alone, start thinking of your question now. All right, let's introduce the panel that we have up here. Thank you, by the way, very much for that very nice introduction full of lies. I appreciated that a great deal. I didn't know that I was such a good guy. So we'll start off here. We've got Cris Martin. He is the Certified Master Dealer from Easy Auto in Fayetteville, North Carolina. We have Michael Thomason for the Mike Carlson Motor Company, President and Owner, Fort Worth, Texas. We have Doug Turner, Director of Asset Management with J.D. Byrider in Carmel, Indiana. And then we also have Mark Gunnarsson. Mark Gunnarsson is the Customer Training and Development Consultant for AllData and AutoZone. For those of you who don't know, AutoZone does own AllData, and we have actually for about the last 18 years. All right, so we're going to work with our panel, so we're going to start working my way down. Who wants to volunteer for a question first? Don't all put your hands up at one time now. I'm going to start working the rope. I'm good. We're good down here. I saw somebody twitching over here. Thank you. You saved them. What's the question?
Just curious if any of you guys do customer pay, and if you do, how do you prioritize that to your internal work? You separate your internal techs from your retail techs. And if you don't do customer pay, you obviously do after-sale repairs on your buy here, pay here stuff. How do you handle, warranties and things like that?
Okay, I got 3 questions out of that. And so I think his row's covered, actually, for the entire thing. So anyway, so we started out with customer pay, and I believe that within the separation of internal, external warranties, correct? And then the third person was around the operations. Does that sound right? Or what was it?
I don't remember. It was so much.
Yeah, I know. Okay, let's start with customer pay. Let's start with internal, external operations, and then best practices. All right, so who's got customer pay in their business?
We do very little.
Yeah, I don't think you're on.
Not all?
Now you're on. Okay. Yeah, we definitely can tell you're on now.
We do very little customer pay, primarily reconditioning our own vehicles. The customer pay business that we do, we normally outsource that. We'll still get the parts ourselves and send it to, one of, 5 or 6 shops that we use, and go ahead and get it outsourced. Again, not to interfere with trying to recondition our own vehicles and getting them ready and getting them on the lot.
Okay, great. How about Michael?
We do very similar to what Cris just said. We do work for our customers, for our own customers. We don't do any off the street work. I don't know if that was your question or not, but we don't do any off the street work, but we do. If a customer's had a car for a month or 2 months or a year and they need work, we do that work. And if in most cases it's covered by a warranty or a service contract or something like that.
Okay. And then Doug, what with J. Bradbury?
Yeah, same with us. We do not do any external customer pay stuff, although we do some internal customer pay. And I think the key there is to make sure that you can set your customers up from a pay perspective to put themselves or put you in a bad position if you just continue to give them everything for free over time, because they expect things. So what we try and do is stage out how they pay and when they pay. So if you go to a customer that's 16 months into their contract and you say, oh, Joey, by the way, you need to start paying me. But for the prior 16 months, you'd given them everything for free. That's probably not a good path or a good pattern to set them up on. So we try and initially from day one. Now, if it's a week or two after the sale, that's a different conversation. But we try and educate them on the importance of paying initially, when they first get into the contract instead of later. So.
Okay. Out of curiosity, I have a question then from the audience. How many people here have active buy here, pay here operations going on right now? How many are doing customer pay? Wow. That's a little bit more than I thought. Based upon what we're seeing in the industry, we're seeing probably around 40 to 50%. The question I have then for the audience, I'm going to turn around for a second. Are you scheduling your customer pay during day hours and then doing your recon at night? Or are you actually just doing it based upon workflow? Just based upon how the vehicles are flowing in? Everybody's scheduled. Got it. Okay, that's curious. Okay, great. I think we have a question back here. Okay.
I would add.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mark.
I would add to that. If you're not doing customer pay and thinking about doing it or adding it to your services, one of the main things you want to do, and I'm sure those of you who are doing it, you need to have really defined processes, some of which are going to differ from your other work. There's different ways to talk to that customer, obviously, and something that Doug said, they will become accustomed to that. And you can kind of train your customers on what to expect when they come in and find out which ones are the best that do the right things that you need them to do. You can offer a lot of valuable services that are highly profitable services that don't necessarily cost the customer a lot, but can put some extra profits in your pocket, such as the scheduled maintenance items. So just have a process in place.
Excellent. Okay, I have a question. I have a question from
Rick.
From Rick. Okay.
First of all, I'd like to hear what everybody, what's the size of your service operation? How many techs, and how you pay them? And then, does anybody have a pork producer own reinsurance company? And on your customers where it breaks and they don't have the money to fix it, what happens now?
Okay, so evidently we're only taking 3-part questions. All right, so we're going to start off with size of operations, techs, how you pay them, and then the last question was about the port.
If they have a port, and what's the pay plan when that customer can't afford to fix his vehicle?
Okay, pay plan for when the customer can't afford to fix their vehicle. I think we go up to 5. All right, so that's okay. 5-part questions are great. We just have to remember them. All right, so anyway, we're going to go left to right. I'm sorry, Mark, I'm skipping you in this one. All right, Mr. Turner.
So number of technicians, we usually average about 1 technician per every 10 to 12 cars that we sell. Now that'll depend on the seasonality and the size of our portfolio, obviously. But in a mature store, it's usually 1 technician per 10 to 12 cars that we retail. So that's kind of how we back into the math a little bit. Now how we pay them hourly with a small bonus incentive, but we hold them accountable using AllData to a flat rate type of system where we can see actually what they're spending on a car to what they should be spending on a car. So that was that. And then if we have a customer that comes in that has a brake repair that may not have the money to pay for those, we try and get something out of that customer, just like we would a down payment. We try and get them to commit to being more accountable to their contractor, to their loan, just very similar to taking their trade away from them. If they don't have a car to fall back onto, there's a higher likelihood that they're going to continue to pay on their account. Did I get 3 or 4?
I'm impressed you answered all the questions. I'm very impressed. How many tech?
A week per tech, or 10 or 12 units a month?
So if we've got a store that would sell 40 to 50 cars a month, we would have 4 to 5 techs.
Okay, so 10 to 12 per month?
Yes.
You're saying you're pushing through it. Okay, great. All right, I think you got most of them, correct? Size of operation? Okay, great. Everything like that. And, go ahead, Michael.
Okay. So we have right now about 18 techs. They make ready about 200 cars to 250, depending on the time of the year that we're in. 200 to 250 cars a month that they're making ready. Question number 2, I think, was how do they get paid? We pay a flat rate, just an hourly rate. We don't pay them on the book. We just pay them an hourly rate. And they get a bonus depending on how many cars they can get produced and how many we can get sold, and if we're behind and we need to push them. And so there's some bonuses set up in there where they can do a little better than their hourly rates. And we do own our own reinsurance companies for our warranties and service contracts. And what other question? I can't remember now.
I think it was overall size of operation. Oh, pay plan for customers.
Okay, so if the warranty doesn't cover it, and if by chance the service contract doesn't cover it, then we do finance those repairs for the customers. In a lot of cases, they don't have any money at that point. It's important for us to just keep the car on the road, so we'll fix it. If we have to contract, then we'll do a little side contract with them and just put them in some payments, make it doable, that they can pay for it. In most cases, you're talking about a motor or a transmission or something at that point. And then it's got to be way down the road before one of our products is not going to kick in and help that customer.
Excellent. And finally, Mr. Martin, you've had 2 people now go through the questions, so no assistance for you.
I'm impressed because I'm probably not going to remember all of them like they did. As far as number of techs, we've got 2 techs. We were at 5 last year and found that for us, and it's just worked better to reduce the number of techs we've got in-house, and we've been outsourcing more. We've got some good local service centers there that we utilize locally, and it's just been a lot more efficient for us. As far as how we pay them, very similar to Michael, we pay them a base hourly rate. We pay them a bonus depending on how quickly they turn the cars, and we also pay them a bonus depending on how many units we deliver for the month. And we just started a reinsurance company, and so far so good with that. Started that at the beginning of the year, and prior to that we were offering service contracts on all of our vehicles and a short-term limited powertrain warranty. And lastly, the last question was customer pay. If somebody broke down in the middle of a contract, how do we handle it? Again, very similar to Michael. If they have an issue, we really try hard to get them to pay at least half down and then work out the rest over time. But again, we're just going to do whatever makes sense because we want to keep the car on the road and keep the customer paying.
Excellent. Well, and then I have a question here over here, but quick. For those in the room, how many people are doing all their own in-house service? And how many people are outsourcing? How about 50-50? Okay, great. I think we have a question over here, so this row is going to get taken care of. You're off the hook, buddy. All righty, go ahead.
Yeah, so, excuse me. On your mechanic bonuses, are you individually bonusing a mechanic? Are you doing it weekly or monthly? Or do you team bonus? Because you're talking about production of units as a group. So are you doing it out of your shop individually? And how's that controlled? How do you control it? Or give me an example, because we're looking for that type of incentive program that would work and not just be a base pay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's start out with Michael.
Okay, so for us, we would say if that tech or if that garage can produce the 200 that we need or the 250 or whatever that number is that month, we set that goal is set every month based on how many cars we have in inventory, how many we're going to be buying and bringing into the make-ready department. So it's not as convoluted as I'm making it sound. We just more or less pluck a number out of the air and say, here's the number that you need to make ready this month. And then it's kind of tied to how many cars we're going to sell that month also. And then the mechanics gets bonused on the team. So everybody makes the bonus or nobody makes the bonus. And it's usually, I think, $300 to $500 per tech, somewhere.
Measuring your mechanics production against flag, you know, work hours versus flag time, because there has to be a way to, I mean, we might want 200 cars, but if there's all engines, they can't be done, right, or all transmissions, so it's going to be dependent on the level of repairs.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, is that how you're gauging your mechanic production?
No, we don't go by book. We don't look at that. We're probably maybe a little behind the curve on that kind of stuff, but we don't go by that. And not all of our techs would be, in fact, none of our techs would be qualified to be changing out motors or transmissions. All that would be outsourced. So we're just making cars ready, doing small jobs, brakes, rotors, front ends, you know, things like that. So we're not doing hardline stuff, no. All the hardline stuff gets sent out.
Next one, how about Mr. Martin?
For example, our detailer, when we get a car in, he's got 24 hours to get that car in, work it in between details, get it washed, vaxed, you know, get our buyer's guide in the window and get pictures of it. He gets a bonus for that if he gets all the vehicles that we take in throughout the month, and it is a monthly bonus. He gets a bonus if he gets all his cars turned in 24 hours from the time that they hit the ground or they get logged in. He also gets a bonus quarterly, depending on the number of units we've sold for that quarter. So there's, you know, the team, I guess, concept there. As far as our technicians are concerned, we put all of our vehicles, whenever they come in, through what we call a quality assurance check. We put it through a 130-point inspection, you know, check everything on it. The folks that are doing that, they have a 48 hours from the time it's booked in. So the detailer's got to get it, you know, washed, vaxed, and pictures taken. This guy's got to get it, you know, checked out and that completed. And if he does that, he's going to get a monthly bonus. And again, he's going to get a quarterly bonus based on production of sales.
Next, Mr. Turner.
Can I ask, are you more concerned about full service, the all repairs, or just getting the vehicle ready for sale?
Well, on one of our companies that we run together, we do about 450 service tickets. We have 13 techs, and we service warranty, make ready, and hardware.
Okay.
So we have 3 subdivisions, and we're clearly running a bunch of cars. And I'm trying to devise a way. We of course monitor mechanic production.
Sure. On the hours we pay them physically, because we're on hourly, but we have to compare that to something. So we look at Mitchell and flag those two, just to see if we can get at least 100% production. Well, we're looking for a bonus, and I don't know. Clearly, the guy that's installing pastimes and doing brakes and stuff, he can develop 110, 120, 130 flag hours and only work 45 hours. And some of my electrical techs, they don't get credit for that time. They'll hit 30 hours and work 45. So I'm trying to develop a way to, I thought maybe you guys had a bonus program in there where we could equally, reward the tech that is producing, even if it's an electrical versus installing pastimes. Yeah, you're already halfway there. That the comp plans can be pretty complex beasts, and you can do what you want to do, but you have to put a factor on the difficulty of the work and the type of work that they're doing. And the one common theme is measuring how quickly the work was completed compared to the time that it should have been. Comparing to your book time is a good way to start. So you're measuring both efficiency and productivity. It's just a matter of deciding, all right, how do I want a bonus? Is it going to be strictly on productivity? If it is, then you have to watch out for comebacks. and ding them backwards for when things don't go right. So then it starts to get really complex. The efficiency piece, you know, you're just going to have to sit down and factor that stuff in.
You guys aren't going to get a bonus.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. It's tough. How about JD Byrider?
Has anybody ever designed a pay plan that backfires and creates bad behaviors because of a pay plan?
Happens all the time.
Well, you can easily do that with paying your technicians off a flat rate time. And if you think about it, in our business, there's always work to do. There's never downtime. You know, when you've got your portfolio and you've got your recons and everything else, there's always something to be doing. So in my opinion, it's best to hold your technicians accountable to that. Now, you may have different expectations based on the jobs they do. So electrical may be X% and heavy line may be X% and your recon techs may be X%. But at the end of the day, I think as long as you give them a good hourly rate, they're happy with a consistent paycheck, and you incentivize them on some trigger points in your business. So some things in our business that are important to us are what's the average cost of our reconditioning? So can you spend too much in reconditioning and make the car worse? In my opinion, yes. The more you spend doesn't always necessarily mean you're going to get a better product. Because when you're buying a car that's 10 years old and you start to repair certain things, other things can go wrong. So we measure average reconditioning cost, and then we look at something called 90-day policy and warranty. So we want to track that car 90 days after the retail sale of that car to make sure that we did the reconditioning work properly the first time. And then we also track them on pay hours to not necessarily book hours, pay hours to how many hours we build the car, because we build the car actual hours. So that kind of gives us an efficiency rating. And then we also look at aging too, and it's a team bonus, which should pull the whole team together.
Team bonus at the location?
Yes.
The location level,
Yes.
right.
Yep.
Okay, based on vehicles going through. Excellent. Good questions. Any other questions? Oh, I forgot to thank you for the all-data plug a question ago. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We got you covered. Anyway, all right. We got a question here. These.
What is your average reconditioning costs, and do you break it down parts and labor and have both parts and labor breakdown on reconditioning costs?
Thank you. We'll start off, Mr. Turner.
Our average parts and labor are typically about $900 to $950, and then we pack the car some too. So usually our total reconditioning is around $1,500 to $1,550 per car.
On what ACV?
Our all-in ACV with reconditioning is usually in that 65 to 7 grand range.
5,000.
Yeah, about a $5,000 purchase price. Yep. Yep. Yep.
We have an average ACV of about $12,000, and our reconditioning cost is about $700 per car, not including labor.
We have average ACV of about $6,000, and we're about 1,200 reconditioning, and we don't separate parts and labor out. That's parts and labor at 1,200.
Wow, okay. Excellent. Other questions that we have from the field? Excellent. By the way, Lee, based upon the numbers that Mr. Turner just gave me, I just raised your sales target, by the way. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that.
It seems like most of y'all do not do any outside work. Why not? Other than not getting your normal cars ready, why not hire more techs?
Okay. Did everyone get the question?
Yeah.
That you're not doing the outside work? So we'll start at the end here.
We tried that. That's the reason we went from 5 to 2 as far as number of techs from last year to this year. It's, you know, the thing we found is what we know and do best is lease cars, lease here, pay here. And the more we got into the service side of things, it seemed to slow down our buy here, pay here business. So we still have techs, we still do work in-house, but we just found that it was more efficient for us to outsource it. We got our cars turned faster, customers were happier, we were happier. And the other thing we also found is it seemed like the more techs we had, you know, you throw in personnel issues and, you know, that as well. And maybe we were just, you know, maybe I didn't do a very good job of hiring either, so you have all those issues to deal with. But it's tough to find good technicians. Tough to find good technicians.
A challenge for all of us right now. Actually, no doubt about it. Michael.
We've never been in that side of the business, and mainly, you know, Cris covered a lot of it. that's another business that you want to run, and we're already running a car lot and a finance company, and you know, we're trying to get all of the cars that we can made ready, and so you're talking about running a completely separate business, and we struggle to do what we do really well. So
I rebuttal to that. I don't want to stop the conversation, but new car stores have been doing it for years. Why can't we?
The rebuttal was, new car stores have been doing it for years. Why can't this part of the industry?
I think it can be done. I think you have to be very, very conscientious and careful of how far you push the needle. And the reason I say that is our service department is there for one reason, is to protect our portfolio. That's it. That's it. I'm not concerned about outside oil changes. I'm not concerned about hanging parts and labor. Now, it can create some potential leads for you, and it can do a few other things if you're good at it. It can also backfire, too. So I think it can be done at some scale, but the size of our service departments right now do not allow us to do that. And to both their points, we need to get better at what we currently do, not try and focus on something else. That's my opinion. So.
Excellent. So I'm hearing, in general, is a focused issue. And Mr. Gunderson, you know, as we looked at our portfolio, I can tell you guys from an AutoZone perspective, we have roughly, Lee helped me, about 6,000 buy here, pay here dealers, actually, that buy parts from us. I got to tell you, what we see in our portfolio is the whole spectrum. Actually, we see lots that dealers that do all outside service, all the way over to all in-house. And, you know, I don't necessarily know that we know what the numbers are, you know, based upon that. We just know that the spectrum is there. So all models are out there. Have we ever looked at that? Mark, have you ever looked at that in your consulting with the customer?
Upwards of, well, we know about 50% or so are doing something, but beyond customer pay and retail work plus make or make ready, we don't. I do support your thinking. I think the opportunity is there, but all the gentlemen here are spot on. It is a completely separate business, and if you try to do it all under, you know, your same service managers, you could be setting yourself up. I support doing it if your facilities are right, your processes are right, and you're truly geared around that separate operation, because, you know, you're going to measure the business differently, your margins are going to be set differently. It's all different, even possibly the way you compensate those particular techs. So you just have to be prepared for that.
One thing I'd say too is, because of what we went through last year and trying to ramp up our service department, our processes are much better today, much better than they were 6 or 12 months ago. So if we did have the benefit of running across some good techs over the next, you know, several months or whatever, and able to build the techs or the service department back up again, we'd probably look at it. But it's just, again, to us, it's you know, all about finding the right techs.
Okay, we have some additional feedback here.
I'm on the other side of the fence. Now I'm a buy here, pay here guy with about 900 accounts, and I want to go to the first 1,200 and up to 1,500. I have a shop that has 11 techs and a body shop as well. We do outside business, and we are running anywhere from $18,000 to $23,000 a month in gross profit. Not servicing my people, but just customer pay outside people coming in. The theory is I'm positioning myself to grow my book, and at some point in time I'm not going to be able to do it. But for now, I'm doing it, and I'm making really good money at it.
Good. Are you viewing the customers to come in for paid customer service as a lead, as a potential you're trying to build some type of lead position?
Make money with outside people.
Just want to make money? Okay, yeah, because there's no one in here interested in that. I know that. Yeah, based upon the DNA of the crowd. All right, cool. Let's move on to our next question. Who's got? I'm sorry, you guys have been asking great questions. Don't force me to go to the really boring sheet now. Come on. What other questions do we have? It's been stimulating some good discussion. Oh, back over here. I think I saw you once before. Yeah.
Do you all have in-house detailers, and if so, how many cars do you expect them to do each day?
In-house detailers, cars per day. We'll start off on the left, and we're going to go to the right.
Okay.
That'd be...
So you're left, am I right?
Yeah, exactly. I apologize.
No, that's no problem.
Start over there.
We normally have 2 detailers per location. Some stores we have 3, some we have 1, depending on volume. You know, but if it's 40 to 50 car store, we'll have two to three detailers in most cases. So. Yeah, but it depends too if we house repossessions at those locations and what do we do with those repossessions. Because we do a lot of reconditioning work to the repossessions before we sell them at the auctions. So that kind of depends too on where our repos are flowing through. But if it's just for sales operations, it'd be 2 to 3 usually.
And I would imagine too, not everyone's doing probably the same level of detailing too, right?
Exactly.
So there's I think you talked about 130-point inspection, right? So we'll go across. How about what you're doing in Fort Worth?
We have, I think, we have a couple of different shops, so I think we probably have 5 guys that, I don't know that we would call them detailers, they're more like car wash guys. We don't really do heavy detailing. If a car comes in that has to have heavy detailing, that we would farm that out somewhere. That's kind of a rare thing for us, but. And they're going to get out, each guy will probably get out somewhere between 5 and 8 cars a day.
Okay. And then you actually have a bonus plan, right, for your detailers? So
we do, and we're fortunate. We've got a full-time detailer, and then we've got one of our technicians used to be our detailer. And so, you know, if he has to, if it makes sense for him to help out or whatever, if we're really pushed to get a few cars out, he can do that. But we're normally looking for our detailer to get, you know, a couple cars a day out.
Okay, excellent. Excellent questions. How about anybody? Absolutely.
Okay. I would like to know how much they mark up the parts and what your hourly cost is when you're charging your customer.
Okay, a parts markup and internal recon, and when they're charging the external customer, right? Okay, great. So parts markup and then labor rate, I believe. You're looking for when you're charging to pay like a paid customer service. Let's start off right over here. Let's start in the middle.
Okay. Well, if it gets to that point where we're going to charge a customer, we would probably mark the parts up maybe 30%. I'm guessing that's what it is. It's a very rare thing that we're doing that, but I don't know if that's what the number you're looking for or not.
I think that's what the number you're looking for. And then what about the labor rate?
We don't.
You're just not doing that from a business perspective.
We don't have that kind of setup.
Yeah. How about Chris?
We're at 25% markup on parts, and we're $75 an hour.
Okay, those are familiar numbers. And what about J.D. Byrider?
We structure our service departments to not lose money or not make money. We structure them to support our portfolio. So we charge, or our markup is 0 on parts, and our labor is $39 an hour.
That's all internal?
Yeah, absolutely. I want our customers to be able to afford that repair, and I don't want to pinch them too hard where it could affect their contractual payment. So we keep it very, very cheap, and we provide that as an incentive of doing business with us.
And so you're saying that your technician costs are about $39 all in?
Yes.
Then, okay.
So, quick question. Was the other part for customer pay retail, reaching out for a new customer? That's a little different. Mm-hmm. That's a little different. Best practices, you want to end up on average with an average gross profit. Best practices is about 53-54% margin. Anywhere in 50% is fine. To get that, though, it's where a lot of operators, a lot of independent repair shops really have the wrong processes in place, because you can't obviously make 50% on a steering rack that you bought for $700. You're not going to sell that for $1,400, right? So that's where a parts pricing matrix comes in. It's really important to do that. Your low cost, real small parts, you need a little higher markup. And then obviously the more expensive parts, you've got a lot of cash involved in terms of pure profit dollars, so less of a markup is appropriate. But that blend, at the end of the day, when you look at the end of the month or your P&L statement, the total margin on those parts for for a profitable service department should be in the order of around 50% combined. And that's just pretty much an industry standard for customer pay retail operations.
And so, Mark, you've been consulting with a lot of fix and repair shops out there, and are you finding that's just parts alone, right? Not service.
That's just parts alone.
That's just parts alone, so labor 50%.
Labor should actually be a little higher,
right.
And that gets a little complex. Back to this gentleman's question, that's really based on your cost of labor, which is going to vary from tech to tech and job to job. If you have a tech that's doing that heavy electrical work, It's going to be a little different from a C-Tech that's doing maintenance work. Most shops really don't get that complex with it, but they establish a labor rate that accounts for a proper margin, that yields a proper margin based on what they're spending for labor.
And so what is the margin on labor that you're seeing in most of the best practice shops?
Best practices is actually 60%. When you combine the labor and the parts, you end up with a blended rate of around 54, 55%. If you're north of 45, 48, 50, you have a healthy business unless you have really high fixed operating costs, but that's usually not the case.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. Now another question back here.
Do you guys offer any goodwill repairs? Say, for example, you sell a car and 3 weeks later the alternator goes out. Do you charge the customer for the alternator, or do you give them a goodwill repair? Because what I found when I give a goodwill repair, it kind of sort of opens up Pandora's box, and every time something happens from there on out, they expect for me to pay for it. How do you guys handle that?
Excellent question. We'll start off with Mr. Martin.
We do offer, or shouldn't say offer, we do goodwill repairs. We try to handle it on a case-by-case basis. If they've had the car for a few days, it's kind of a no-brainer. We just go ahead and do it. But the longer they've had the car, the more miles they've put on the car since they've gotten it, we're going to start to try to, again, our philosophy has always been treat people the same way we want to be treated. So if we're being fair, usually they're going to, accept it and be okay with it. But we're always looking to try to, again, be more than fair. But we do them, but it's just a case-by-case basis. There's no hard rule there as to when or how we do it.
I'm going to jump down to Mr. Turner.
We do it as well, case by case, just the same. But I think the important thing is, if you do it, you have to educate your customer on why you did it, the importance of it, and the value it creates for them. If you just say, hey, here are your keys, we took care of it, you don't create a lot of value in that process. So I think by sitting down, explaining to them what happened, what was the concern, what was the cause, what was the correction, and then you explain to them that, hey, on a go-forward basis, you need to be obligated to making some of these, repairs, paying for some of these repairs yourself. You just, like you said, you just don't want to open up that box because it can get carried away pretty quick.
One other topic you can do, or thing you can do with that, there's obviously going to be post-sale that go wrong that just could not be anticipated. But if you have the facility to be able to do a pretty disciplined PDI or pre-delivery or pre-sale inspection at some point in time to check out the common things that you might be seeing that are coming back. It's real easy and you can buy very inexpensive test equipment to check that alternator, to check the battery, to check the high failure rate things, so that you know out the door that that they really should be replaced first. It's money well spent to fix it before, so you don't have to have that conversation or you get that expectation from that customer after the fact. 20 minutes or 30 minutes spent checking those things could save you a lot of heartache.
Excellent. And how about Ms. Thompson?
Well, so what you're talking about is managing your customers' expectations, and it seems like their expectations are rising in the last year or so. They're expecting more from us and demanding more from us. So you do have to manage that side of it. But we do goodwill as well. I think we have to do goodwill in order to keep the cars running, to manage the complaints. You don't want to sell a car and have it break down immediately and just tell them, oh, well, you bought that car as is. And I think it's important. That's why one of the reasons we started putting a warranty on cars. Because we did all that work anyway, but we weren't getting any bang for it. We got no warm and fuzzy feelings. The customer left with an as-is car. Well, now they leave with a warranty, and if something breaks, then we're going to fix the car. Even though it may not say in the warranty, hey, we're going to fix your alternator 3 months after you buy it, we're going to fix that car. We would without a warranty. But we have them sign a goodwill statement. That we did this for goodwill. We won't do it again in 3 months. This is a breakdown part. So it's part of the education of the customer, what we're talking about over here. So.
Excellent. Okay, we have a question here. Now, the answer that they missed was make sure you buy your parts from somebody who gives you 100% parts and labor guarantee. I happen to know one, just in case you guys want to know afterwards. I'll talk to you out in the hall, okay?
I have kind of a continuation question from what she asked regarding parts markup. Do you guys normally charge for supplies and materials on an invoice, and how much do you generally charge or mark that up, or what's the formula behind that?
Do you guys have a question? Charging about supplies, so shop supplies. And do you have a formula behind it based upon actually building into recon costs, I think? Building into recon costs, how do you handle your supplies, and is there a markup that you put into it? So we're going to go ahead and start with Mr. Turner and work our way across.
We charge per reconditioning car, so internally we charge ourselves $40 a car. And that covers a lot of the miscellaneous intangible expenses, some small nuts and bolts, light bulbs, shop uniforms, that type of stuff. We do not charge that to a customer.
Okay, so, okay.
Yeah, because at some point in the buy here, pay here business, you're going to put too much unnecessary pressure back on the customer, and they're just going to say, here are my keys, or they can't make their contractual payment. So for us, that just doesn't make a lot of sense. That's why we don't mark up parts and labor. It's very, very cheap for us as well.
Excellent. How about in Fort Worth?
No, we don't have that built into
cost of doing business.
It's just cost of doing business.
Right, and
we don't charge it either.
Okay, excellent. Pretty consistent answer. A question up here? I saw you.
I wanted to make a comment about going back to the goodwill. One of the things that you need to make sure that you do as well is to make sure the customer knows and understands what the value of that repair was, how much money you spent on it, so that they can see the perceived, what you've had to spend to make that right with the customer. They need to see that value.
And that's a great point. Talking about us improving our processes over the last 6 or 12 months, that's something we started doing. Even on a goodwill, we'll still do an invoice, and we'll show that to the customer, even though we may be goodwill in the repairs. So like you said, and Doug was saying, it definitely, adds value.
Yeah, that is the best practice, actually, you're showing a $40 charge and a $40 credit, and the customer sees it, and the value is there from a perception standpoint. Okay, I believe we're down to 5 minutes, right? This goes to 4 o'clock, so we can either do the lightning round, of which we've only had 5-part questions, so I don't think that's going to work, or I think we can handle about 1 or 2 more questions here. So coming over here, I think this road went twice.
The key is, in a buy here, pay here, what is the number of accounts till you start? We outsource everything. When do you start internalizing that? And then also, do you set up separate companies for that, or you just keep it all under the buy here, pay here dealership?
Okay, we're going to start down. Mr. Martin, work back.
We've been in business 22 years. We started doing some in-house service work about 10 years ago. Our portfolio wasn't a whole lot different in size 10 years ago as it is today. And I apologize, the second part of your question?
Or do you keep those companies separate, or you
it's all under, all one company. We haven't separated that portion of it out.
Okay.
For us, it's all under one company. We don't have a separate company for that. And I don't know what the optimum number of notes you would need to have a mechanic. If you bought your first car, you probably need a mechanic there to change the battery out. I'm not sure. We've been doing it for 40 years, so I think when we first started, my father-in-law started the business, so when we first started, I think the mechanic was also the salesman, so he had double duty. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What about J.D. Barber?
Operationally, we try and run them together and as seamlessly as we can, transparently as we can. On paper, they're far apart. But at the end of the day, we had technicians day one, and we'll have technicians till the end. We try to sublet nothing.
That's okay. I got a question on the corner here.
What kind of solution do you guys provide for a customer? Say they just bought, motor blows in the car, the motor's $2,700, like a Dodge 2.7. What do you guys do in that situation? Do you guys incur all those costs? Do you put them in a different vehicle? Do you do a loaner? Do you do a rental while they're getting their car fixed? How do you guys handle that situation?
Can I answer?
Major repair. Yeah.
First off, I wouldn't buy a 2.7. But I have. That's the reason I know I wouldn't buy another one. And I bought more than one. But the other thing is, yes, we do all that. Again, case by case, whatever makes sense. Again, if we put a customer in a vehicle and several days later that happens, that's on us. We're going to do whatever makes sense for us and the customer to make them happy at that point.
Excellent. How about down in Texas?
Ditto what Chris said. If the motor breaks, if the motor blows, and we're going to do whatever it takes to make that customer happy at that point. In most cases, it's going to be put them in another car as quickly as you can. They don't want to now wait a week for you to get a motor put in that car. So.
Absolutely, and JD Byrider, same.
Yeah, ours is covered under warranty. We won't get them a rental car, but we'll reimburse them for a rental car, just due to liability and insurance issues. But we absolutely take care of them.
Absolutely. Big bias towards keeping that customer in a vehicle and paying the note, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's what we're hearing. How about other questions? I think we have time for one more. Coming down here, coming down the row. This row went twice as well. No?
So when you have a customer and before they buy the car, they're asking you, like when they're signing the buyer's guide and they say, how do you handle it if I have a repair that needs to be made in a couple weeks? Do you tell them that you will, or do you kind of just say it's as is?
Okay, so the customer asks that question up front about what happens if I have a repair, a major repair, and then in the first, let's say the first month, what are you instructing your salespeople, or what are you instructing, what's your policy? Then we'll start off with JD Byrider and work across.
As you know, in the selling process, we can overpromise, and that sets service up to underdeliver and get bad CSI score or bad results in the service department. So we make sure that we're very conscientious in what we tell the customer. Even just something as simple as, hey, we'll take care of it. Well, what does that mean to them? It's free. You know, so we make sure that we watch loan closings and we keep a very close eye on that. But it's a case-by-case scenario because we want to educate them on the importance of them paying for part of the repairs too. You know, so warranty would be covered under warranty, and then we have some goodwill stuff too.
Excellent.
So for us, that's an opportunity to tell the customer why they would want to buy from you. It's a value add. If you're buying from me and your car breaks down in 2 weeks or 2 months, you know, this is why I'm providing you a warranty for the first 12 months. If it's something more serious than that, maybe you should look at if you're really concerned about cost, maybe you should be looking at our service contract that we can put into your contract for just a few dollars a month. You know, so it's an opportunity to educate your consumer on why they should buy from you.
I couldn't have answered it any better.
Okay, great. All right, I got one question back here, and then I got one question up there. We're going a little long, but you guys are a very engaging audience. Oh, I'm 2 minutes long. Anyway, but you're very engaging, okay? Engaging audience gets an extra 5 minutes.
I had listened to y'all talk about your ACV, like Michael T. at 12, and Cris, I think, said was 6,000. How do you mark up your cars for a selling price? And how does that compare to, are you concerned about your $6,000 car having a retail price of $8,500 and you're asking $10,995, and do you put gap on it, or do you just roll the dice and hope that your customer's going to pay through that account and it's not going to be a problem?
Okay, we're back to the multi-part questions. All right, so markup on the vehicle, do you put a gap on it, right? The gap on it, and so best practices there. We'll start with Mr. Martin. Then I got my last question up here.
We pull Kelly Blue Book. We look at Kelly Blue Book normally, and we'll use that as a guide, and it's going to depend on what we've got in the car as to what we price it at. But we're usually going to use Kelly Blue Book as a guide, but it's normally, we're normally going to price over Kelly Blue Book because of what we spend on the front end and the fact that we offer a 24-month, 24,000-mile warranty.
All right, real quick.
So we have a range of cars anywhere from $9,000 to $16,000, and there's not an across-the-board number for that as far as your gross margins. So they will range anywhere from $5,000 down to $3,000 in your gross margins. But then when you're packing 14% interest on that, you're making pretty good money at the end of the day.
Yeah. And what about Jade Byrider?
We do CPI, but in addition to that, we use MMR, Manheim Market Report retail pricing, to set our retail pricing foundation, and then we tweak it a little bit. And the reason we do that is so we have consistent prices from location to location, and it helps control, one store may be selling it for this compared to one store for that. Plus, it doesn't allow the stores to change the price too.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, our last question.
Well, I do have 2 questions, but they're going to be very simple. So I would like to ask you the current software provider that you guys use, and for how long you use this.
Software for which aspect? Point of sale, fix and repair? For DMS, so what are you using for your DMS or shop management, and how long have you been using it?
We're using Dealer Solutions. They're out of North Carolina. We've been using them about 14 years.
Okay, great.
We use AutoStar and have been using AutoStar for, I believe, 8 or 9 years.
Excellent. And?
Internal, 23.
Right. Excellent. All right, everyone, want to thank you. Let's thank our panelists. Did they not do a great job?